She sent a love letter to her best friend, but his billionaire brother read it first and fell in love. She poured her heart into a secret love letter, meant for her best friend, but it ended up in the hands of his cold billionaire brother, and what he read changed everything. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. Emma held the letter in her hands like it was a secret she wasn't ready to face. The envelope was soft pink, her favorite shade, and inside, written in careful cursive, were words she'd spent 3 sleepless nights crafting. Words for Daniel, her best friend since they were 12, the boy who once walked her home in the rain, who made her laugh through breakups, who knew her coffee order and her biggest fears, the boy who became a man but never seemed to notice she was more than just the girl next door. He didn't know, and she had no plans to tell him. The letter was just a way to breathe, to finally let it out of her chest. It started, "Dear Daniel, I know this might sound strange coming from someone who's been in your life forever, but there's something I've never said. And maybe I never will. But just in case I get brave one day, here it is." Emma folded it slowly, tucking it into the envelope and scribbling his name on the front. She wasn't going to mail it. It was never meant for his eyes. It would stay safely hidden in the bottom drawer of her art room, with all the other never-sent things in her life. But fate doesn't follow drawers or plans. The next morning she was rushing. A late start, a spilled coffee, and a call from her school asking if she could cover an extra class. She tossed her lesson plan, a few paints, and some loose papers into her bag, not realizing the letter was tucked between 2 pieces of sketch paper. That evening, after class, she dropped a small envelope into the mailbox at Daniel's apartment building, a thank you card for helping her repair a busted sink last weekend. She didn't notice the pink envelope that slipped inside with it. 2 floors up, Liam Sinclair sat alone in his penthouse office. The skyline glittered behind him, but his attention was buried in endless financial reports. The CEO of Sinclair Holdings, Liam was everything the tabloids loved to hate: rich, ruthless, and emotionally unreachable. He didn't date, he negotiated. He didn't believe in love, only leverage. He was the older brother no one compared to, not because he lacked success, but because he lacked warmth. Daniel, the younger Sinclair, had it all: charm, ease, empathy. The one everyone liked. When the doorman handed him 2 envelopes addressed to Daniel Sinclair, Liam barely glanced at them. But he opened them anyway, force of habit. One was a boring thank you card. The other was something else entirely. He pulled the pink letter out, already annoyed at the color. But as his eyes scanned the first few lines, something strange happened. He stopped reading like a businessman, and started reading like a man who hadn't heard anything soft in a very long time. "I think I started falling for you the day you told me you wanted to be an astronaut, even though you were afraid of heights. You made fear look brave. You made ordinary feel magical." Liam swallowed hard. This wasn't a letter from a clingy admirer or a fan. This was a letter full of aching, raw, beautiful honesty. There was no game here, no agenda, just a woman bleeding quietly onto paper, terrified and tender. If you never read this, it's okay. Some loves are meant to live in silence. I just wanted to say it out loud, somewhere. He read it 3 times, then once more. His hands lingered over the handwriting, elegant, gentle. This wasn't meant for him. He should return it, but he couldn't, not yet. Emma didn't realize the mistake until 3 days later. She'd gone to visit Daniel after school. He was fixing his bike, smiling like he always did. She handed him a sketch she'd made of them as kids. He laughed. It felt like old times. Then he said, "Thanks for the card, Em, but I think one of them wasn't meant for me." Her heart stopped. "What do you mean?" He pulled out the pink envelope from his kitchen drawer. "This. I didn't really get it. It's poetic, but kind of deep for a thank you about a sink." Emma's stomach dropped. "That's not—" Her words tripped over themselves. "That wasn't for you." He blinked. Oh, who was it for? Then? She grabbed the envelope, face flushed, hands shaking. No one. I mean, it's just something I wrote. Forget it. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Emma, it's fine. It's sweet, really. I didn't read all of it. She nodded, too fast. I need to go. He watched her leave with confusion. He had no idea what just happened, but someone else did. Back in the Sinclair penthouse, Liam had spent 3 days replaying those words in his mind. He found himself wondering who she was. This woman with a painter's soul and a hidden heart. Was she someone Daniel knew? A girlfriend? A friend? No. Daniel would have said something. Liam did something he rarely did. He got curious. The envelope had one small clue. In tiny letters on the back, almost hidden in the crease, it read, Miss E. M. Carter. He opened his laptop. 10 minutes later, he found her. Emma Carter, art teacher, lives in Brooklyn, 29. No known social media, except for a modest portfolio site featuring paintings full of emotion, color that made your chest ache. And a photo. She was different. Warm eyes, soft smile, the kind of beauty you don't notice all at once, until you do, and then you can't unsee it. He leaned back in his chair. What was he doing? She had no idea he'd read her letter, and she clearly wasn't talking about him. But he couldn't ignore the way her words had cut through his numbness, the walls he thought were permanent. He wanted to meet her, just once, without telling her who he was. Liam stood in front of a small community art studio in Brooklyn the next day, dressed like a regular guy. Inside, he saw her, painting a sunrise on canvas, hair tied up, laughter echoing from somewhere deep in her chest. He took a breath and walked in. The door creaked gently as Liam stepped inside the art studio. It smelled like turpentine and orange tea. Warm. Real. Children were scattered across the room, busy with paint and paper. Sunlight flooded through tall windows, casting golden stripes across the hardwood floor. And there she was. Emma. Her hair was in a loose bun, strands escaping like they always did in the middle of her work. She was crouched beside a young girl, guiding her hand gently as they painted clouds together. Liam felt something tighten in his chest, unfamiliar but not unpleasant. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. Not without telling her. But he wasn't ready to give her back yet. Not after what her words had done to him. So he stayed quiet. He waited until the class ended and the kids began to gather their things. She stood by the sink, rinsing brushes, humming softly. Then he walked over. "Excuse me," he said, voice calm, careful. "Do you teach here?" Emma turned, brushing her hands on her apron. "Yes, well, part-time, just afternoons. Can I help you?" Liam offered a small, practiced smile. "I'm looking for a birthday gift for my niece. Thought a custom painting might be different." Emma tilted her head. "How old is she?" 7. She nodded. "That's a magical age. What kind of things does she like?" "Unicorns, space." Apparently, both at the same time. Emma chuckled, and it struck him. How light and genuine her laugh was. "I think I can work with that." Liam reached for the small notepad on the counter. "Do I leave my name, or—" She handed him a clipboard. "Just write it down with your number. I can sketch something and show you next week." He hesitated for a second, then scribbled quickly. Name, Will Harper. Phone, 212-5555-1999. Emma read it and smiled. "Nice to meet you, Will." "You too, Emma." Her smile faltered, just slightly. "Have we met before?" Liam swallowed. He shook his head. "No, just lucky, I guess." The next few days passed with a rhythm that felt almost like music. Liam started visiting the studio more often, sometimes bringing coffee, sometimes just watching her paint as he pretended to check on the progress. They talked about art, about childhood, about the way New York could feel both lonely and alive all at once. Emma liked talking to him. There was something different about Will, quiet strength, a rare kind of patience. He didn't talk much about himself, but he listened. really listened. And when he laughed, it was the kind of laugh that felt like it had been waiting years to come out. But there was one thing that tugged at her gently. He never talked about his family. One Thursday afternoon, they sat outside the studio sharing a muffin. The city buzzed around them, but inside their tiny bubble, it was quiet. Emma broke off a piece and handed it to him. "So, Mr. Harper, what do you really do? You don't strike me as a man obsessed with unicorn paintings." Liam paused. A moment too long. Then, "I run a logistics firm. Boring stuff. Import, export." Emma nodded, studying him. "You're not like most guys I meet. You don't fill space just to fill it. I've spent most of my life in rooms full of noise. Silence is underrated." She smiled at that, and then, as if the words had a life of their own, she whispered, "You know, you remind me of someone." Liam's throat tightened. "Who?" She looked down at her hands. "No one, just someone I used to think I knew." That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his penthouse, the lights of the city painting lines across the marble floor. He still had the letter. He'd read it so many times it felt burned into his mind. But now, it was more than a letter. Now it had a face, a voice, a soul, and the guilt, the wrongness of how he met her. It was getting louder. But so was something else. He didn't want to walk away. 2 blocks away, Emma stared at her ceiling. She wasn't sure what was happening with Will. He wasn't like Daniel. Daniel was safe, familiar. Will was unknown, but somehow seen. And the truth was, she hadn't thought about Daniel's smile in days. That scared her, because for the first time in a long time, she was letting go. The next week, she handed Will a finished canvas. A unicorn in space, complete with stars made of glitter and a moon-shaped saddle. He laughed. "She's going to love this." "I'm glad," she said, "but I think you liked it more than she will." He shrugged. "You'd be surprised how much joy I've been missing." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Emma, without thinking, asked, "Why don't I ever see you smile in photos?" Liam blinked. "What?" She pulled up her phone. "I Googled your name. Will Harper Logistics. I found a company site. You looked like you hated being alive in your profile picture." He froze. Just a beat. Emma laughed, nudging him. "I'm joking, sort of." Liam forced a smile. "Maybe I didn't have much to smile about back then." She watched him for a moment. "You do now?" He looked at her. Really looked. "Yes, I think I do." And in that second, she wasn't thinking about letters or old loves. She was thinking about how good it felt to stand in front of someone who chose to show up. That night, as Liam left the studio, his phone buzzed. It was Daniel. "Hey, weird question. Did you by any chance get a letter for me last month? Pink envelope? From Emma?" Liam stopped walking. His world tilted just slightly. "I found out she sent me something by accident, but I never read it. Said it got lost or something." Daniel sent a second message. "Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen her that rattled. It must have been personal." Liam didn't reply. He stared at the screen for a long, long time. And in that moment, he knew. She was starting to fall for him, but she still didn't know who he really was, and the truth was running out of time. Liam stood outside his car, staring at the city skyline, but his mind was a storm. The text from Daniel wasn't just a nudge, it was a warning. The clock was ticking. Emma was falling for Will. But she didn't know he wasn't Will. She didn't know he was Liam Sinclair, CEO of Sinclair Holdings, and Daniel's older brother. And the worst part? Every day that passed, it got harder to tell her the truth. The next time he visited the studio, she met him with a smile that made something deep in him ache. "I saved you a seat," she said, gesturing to the back where they'd been repainting old community murals. He sat down, grabbing a brush. They worked side by side, barely speaking, letting the rhythm of strokes fill the silence. Then, out of nowhere, Emma asked, "Have you ever lied to someone you care about?" Liam's hand froze in mid-air. "What kind of lie?" "The kind where you didn't mean to at first, but then it kept going, and now you don't know how to stop." He didn't look at her.
"Yeah, I have." Emma stared at the wall in front of her. "I wrote something once, something really personal, but it got sent to the wrong person, and I never found out who." His stomach flipped. "What was it?" he asked, voice low. "A letter, for someone I thought I loved." Silence stretched between them.
She added softer this time. "But lately I think it wasn't really love. It was just comfort." Liam turned his head, meeting her eyes. "And now?" "Now?" She hesitated. "I'm more afraid of what's real than what I used to dream about." Later that evening they took a walk through Prospect Park. The late spring air smelled like wet leaves and something sweet from a nearby food cart. Emma's hands were in her pockets, and Liam's stayed just a few inches from hers, close enough to feel the warmth, not close enough to hold. "You don't talk much about your family," she said. Liam nodded. "It's complicated." She glanced at him. "You don't like them?" "It's not about liking. Sometimes people expect you to be someone you're not, and when you try to break out of that version, they make you feel guilty for changing." Emma stopped walking. "That sounds a lot like Daniel." Liam blinked. "Daniel?" She laughed quietly, looking up at the trees. "He's always been the golden boy. Everyone loves him, and I used to think I did too." Her voice trembled, not from sadness, but realization. "But he never really saw me. He saw the idea of me, safe, predictable, and I was so afraid of losing him. I let it happen." She looked at Liam. "You're different. You ask questions. You listen." He swallowed the lump rising in his throat. This woman was unraveling him, word by word. And he wasn't sure if it was too late, to be honest. That weekend, Daniel invited Emma to a family charity event. Something small, casual, a garden brunch. She said yes, out of habit. But when she arrived and stepped into the open courtyard filled with crisp white tents and polished shoes, she felt out of place. Daniel greeted her with a hug. "Glad you came. My mom was asking about you." Emma smiled politely, but her eyes scanned the crowd and froze. Across the lawn, near the bar, stood Liam. Not Will, not flannel shirt, quiet smile Will, but Liam Sinclair. Tailored suit, commanding posture, glass of champagne in hand. Daniel caught her staring. "Oh, that's Liam, my brother. I don't think you've met him. He usually avoids these things." She nodded slowly, mind racing. "He looks familiar." Daniel turned to call out, "Hey, Liam!" Liam looked over, their eyes locked. Emma's heart dropped. That was him. The man who'd been showing up to her studio, laughing over muffins, asking about unicorns. Will Harper. Didn't exist. Liam began to walk toward them. Every step felt like thunder. "Emma," Daniel said, "this is my brother." "I know," she interrupted. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Liam stood still, inches from her. She didn't smile. "Can I talk to you?" he asked quietly. Daniel frowned, stepping back. "Everything okay?" Emma didn't answer. She just followed Liam toward the back garden, away from the crowd, away from the noise. When they were alone, she turned sharply. "Why?" Liam opened his mouth. No sound came out. "You knew who I was," she whispered. "You read my letter." He nodded slowly. "Yes." "And you lied." "I didn't mean to," he said. "At first, I didn't even plan to meet you. I just couldn't forget your words. They weren't just beautiful. They were true, and I hadn't heard truth in so long." Emma looked away, blinking hard. "And then?" "Then I met you, and I realized I didn't want to be him anymore. I just wanted to be with you, as myself. But I'd already lied, and every day it got harder to fix it, because it was the only way I got to keep you around. She shook her head, furious and heartbroken all at once. You let me fall for a version of you that didn't exist. No, he said quickly. You didn't fall for Will Harper. You fell for the man who showed up, who listened, who meant every word. That was me, Emma. Always me. She stepped back. But not the man who told me the truth. And then, her voice cracked. Just barely. I trusted you, and now I don't know what was real. Liam stood there, silent, letting her leave. Because in that moment, he knew something deeper than all his success or strategy. He had broken the heart of the one woman who saw the world the way he wished he could. As she walked away, wiping a tear from her cheek, Liam whispered to himself, not loud enough for her to hear, it was always real. I just didn't know how to deserve it. For the first time in weeks, the studio felt cold. Emma sat at her easel, brush in hand, but the canvas stayed blank. No color, no light, no heartbeat. Everything inside her felt quiet, but not the kind of peaceful quiet. The kind that rings after something breaks. She hadn't seen or heard from Liam. No, from Liam, not Will, since the garden brunch. And she didn't know what hurt more, that he lied, or that she missed him anyway. Daniel stopped by the studio 2 days later. Hey, he said, placing a coffee cup by her elbow. Hazelnut and way too much sugar. Just how you like it. She gave him a tired smile. Thanks. He pulled up a stool and sat beside her. So, I owe you an apology. Emma blinked. For what? I didn't know, Daniel said. About the letter, about Liam. Her chest tightened. It wasn't your fault. But I should have paid more attention. I thought, we were close, Em. I didn't even realize you felt that way. She shrugged. Maybe because I never said anything, or maybe because I wasn't really in love with you. I just thought I was. Daniel stared at her for a moment, then smiled softly. That's fair. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he added, he's not good at this kind of thing, you know. Feelings, people. Liam's always been the cold one, but he showed up for you in a way I've never seen before. That wasn't an act. Emma looked down. It was still a lie. Yeah, Daniel said, but maybe the reason matters too. That night, Emma wandered through the city aimlessly, ending up at a bookstore that smelled like cinnamon and old pages. She browsed the art section, fingers brushing spines, until she reached for a familiar title, Letters to a Young Artist. It fell open in her hands. And right there, scribbled in the corner of the front page, for the ones who feel too much and say too little, E. Her own handwriting, a copy she'd donated years ago. Tears stung her eyes. She couldn't run from her own words anymore. Across the city, Liam sat alone in his office, lights off, city glowing behind him. He hadn't been to the studio. He couldn't. Every time he thought of her face that day, the way it fell when she realized who he was, something in him cracked. He'd built a life around being untouchable, around keeping things clean, sharp, unmessy. Emma had walked into it like sunlight in a closed room. And now, he missed her in places he didn't know could miss. The next morning, a brown envelope arrived at her studio. No name, just a tiny embossed logo in the corner, Sinclair Holdings. Inside was a single note, handwritten. I wanted to give you space, but not silence. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know, the way I showed up for you was the first time in my life I ever showed up for anything real. You said in your letter that some loves live in silence. Mine doesn't want to. Beneath it was another sheet, a donation receipt. Liam had quietly funded a year's rent for the art studio. No press, no announcement, just a gesture. Not money, not control, just space. For her. Emma stared at the letter for a long time. Then slowly she folded it, pressed it to her chest, and closed her eyes. She still wasn't sure if she was ready to forgive him, but maybe, just maybe, she was ready to see him. One last time. 2 days later, Liam sat in a small cafe in Brooklyn. Rain tapped against the window. His coffee had gone cold. And just when he was about to leave, she walked in, umbrella tucked under one arm, eyes steady, chin slightly raised. She sat across from him. Neither spoke at first. Then Emma reached into her bag and pulled out a small, worn envelope. Pink. The original letter. She set it on the table between them. "You read it?" she asked. He nodded. "Every word." "And it made you come find me?" "No," Liam said quietly. "It made me realize I'd never really met someone who understood love. Until I read that letter." Emma looked at him for a long time. "You lied to me, Liam." "I did. But you also saw me, in a way no one else ever has." She took a breath. Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled. "I don't know what this is between us, or what it could be, but I don't want it built on pretending." Liam leaned forward, voice softer than she'd ever heard. "Then let me start over. No lies, no names, just me and you." She stared at him, then reached across the table. Their hands met, warm, hesitant, but real. And just like that, the silence between them became a beginning, not an ending. They didn't kiss that night. They didn't rush. They just sat there, in that little cafe tucked between rainy Brooklyn streets, holding hands across a table full of awkward silence and quiet hope. For Emma, it wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was something close. And for Liam, it was the first time in his life he didn't try to fix a problem with power. He just stayed, present, honest, vulnerable. The next few weeks unfolded slowly, like layers of paper being peeled back. He came back to the studio, this time not as Will, not with some made-up niece or cover story, just as himself. Sometimes he sat in the back, quietly sketching with charcoal. Other times he helped her rinse brushes, laughing when he inevitably splattered paint on his perfectly ironed shirt. Emma was different too, softer, but guarded. Her eyes would linger on him longer than they used to, but when he touched her hand, she'd still pull away. Not because she didn't want him to, but because she was learning how to trust again. Not just him, herself. One afternoon, after the kids had left, they stayed late cleaning. The sun was dipping behind rooftops, casting gold across the wooden floors. Liam looked over at her, drying a glass jar with a towel. "You once told me," he said, "that you thought love could live in silence." She looked up, not moving. "I did. Do you still?" Emma walked over and leaned against the edge of the table. "I think some love needs time, quiet, space to figure itself out." Liam nodded. "And ours?" She looked at him, really looked. "I don't know what this is yet, but I don't want to run from it." He stepped closer. "Then don't." She hesitated, then let him take her hand. A week later, Liam invited her to dinner. Not in some exclusive 5-star rooftop place. He made dinner. Himself. In his own kitchen. Emma showed up with a bottle of wine and a nervous laugh. "You really made this?" she asked, eyeing the pasta. "Burnt the first batch. This is round 2. She took a bite. Her eyes widened. "This is actually incredible." He smiled. "You sound surprised." "I guess I just assumed billionaires don't cook." He sat down across from her, a little too fast. "That's the thing. You don't treat me like one." Emma tilted her head. "Like what?" "Like a billionaire, or a brand, or someone who's supposed to have it all figured out." She stirred her pasta. "Maybe because I've seen you with flour on your nose and paint in your hair. I don't really care about the skyline view. I care about who shows up when everything gets messy." Liam's smile faded into something more serious. "I want to show up for you, Emma. Not just here. Not just while this is new. Always." Her throat tightened. "I don't need always right now," she said gently. "I just need real." He reached across the table. "Then real is what you'll get." "But love isn't always simple." One night, after a long shift at the studio, Emma's phone buzzed. An email. Subject: Proposal for feature. Your art, your story. She clicked it open. Inside was a full pitch from a magazine. They'd somehow gotten wind of her work, and more importantly, her connection to Liam Sinclair. The title made her stomach twist. The Billionaire's Muse. Who is the woman behind Liam Sinclair's unexpected romance? She stared at the words like they were poison. All this time, she'd kept their world quiet, private, sacred. But the outside world didn't care about boundaries. They just wanted a story, a headline. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she showed up at Liam's building without texting. The doorman recognized her now. He let her up. Liam opened the door, eyes lighting up when he saw her, but the look on her face made the light fade fast. "What happened?" he asked. Emma handed him the printed email. "I thought this would happen eventually. I just didn't think it'd feel like this." He read it in silence, then looked up. "I didn't say anything. I swear." "I know," she said, "but that doesn't matter. This world, yours, it's loud. And I don't think I know how to live in it." He stepped closer. "Emma, I'm not asking you to fix it, Liam. I just needed to see what it felt like, to have people suddenly care about me for the wrong reasons." Her voice cracked. "I worked so hard to build a life where I mattered for me, not for who I was with." He reached for her. "You still do." "But will they see that?" she asked, eyes wet. "Will you?" The silence between them felt heavy, but he didn't let her go. "I don't care what anyone writes. I care that you're here, that we're trying. I know this world is messy, but I'll protect yours any way I can." Emma looked up at him. "Even if that means stepping away from yours?" His eyes didn't blink. "Yes." Later that evening, he quietly declined a major TV interview. No explanation, just a flat no. When his assistant asked why, he simply said, "Because sometimes the best things in life deserve to be quiet." A few days passed. Then one evening, Emma showed up again, this time with a new canvas. She handed it to him without a word. It was a painting of a man sitting in a sunlit room, half in shadow, half in light. He looked tired, but not empty, alive, human. Below it, a title in the corner, Becoming. Liam stared at it, and something inside him broke, in the best way. "You see me," he whispered. Emma nodded. "I always did, even before I knew your name." And in that moment, neither of them was running. Not from the past, not from fear, not from each other. They were finally stepping into something real, together. Spring turned into early summer, and Brooklyn bloomed around them. Mornings were warmer now. Sidewalks bustled with vendors, dogs tugged at leashes, and laughter spilled from stoops like confetti. But inside Emma's studio, things moved at their own pace, slower, quieter, more intentional. She and Liam had stopped pretending. They weren't trying to impress or prove anything. They were just learning each other in the raw light of real life. He came to help every Thursday afternoon. At first it was just little things, fixing a broken easel, organizing supplies, sweeping paint dust from corners. But after a few weeks, the kids started calling him Mr. L, and he didn't correct them. One afternoon, while helping a shy boy mix green for the first time, Liam looked up at her, his hands stained with paint, hair messy from leaning too close to the canvas, and smiled. It was the most unguarded she had ever seen him, and it hit her then. He wasn't showing up for her anymore. He was showing up for himself. That night she invited him over. No fancy dinner, no candles. Just soup and old jazz playing from a Bluetooth speaker. They sat cross-legged on her tiny couch, sharing a bowl and a single spoon, laughing when they spilled on the cushion. And then, quietly, without a plan, Emma said, "I used to think love had to be loud to mean something. Fireworks, grand gestures, perfect timing." She looked at him. "But now, I think it might be this." He met her eyes. "Soup?" She laughed. "No, I mean, this. The quiet. The choosing. The staying. Liam took her hand. Then I'll stay, as long as you'll have me. The next morning, something happened that would have shaken her. Once, a photographer caught them walking out of a bookstore, just a candid. Her hand looped around his arm, their heads leaning in close. The photo made its way to a gossip blog within hours. Headlines bloomed like weeds. Liam Sinclair's secret love. Who is the woman who stole his heart? From canvas to CEO, the romance no one saw coming. Emma saw it on a student's phone the next day. She paused, then kept walking. No breakdown, no panic. She thought the world might fall apart if people knew. But the truth was, the world didn't change. Only she had. She knew who she was now, and more importantly, who he was when no one was looking. Still, Liam felt the pressure. His PR team begged for a response. His board hinted at concerns. Investors raised eyebrows, but he refused to make a statement. No comment was all he said. He wouldn't reduce her to a line in a press release, because she wasn't a headline. She was his heart, finally found, finally safe. One night as they walked through the park after dinner, Emma turned to him and asked, "Do you ever wish we'd met differently?" Liam paused. "Yes," he said, "but not because of what happened, because I wish I'd been ready for you sooner." She stopped walking. "You think you're ready now?" He looked around at the trees, the path, the way her hand felt warm inside his. "I don't think anyone's ever really ready for love, but I know I don't want to live a life where I pretend I don't need it." Her breath caught in her throat. She'd waited so long to be chosen, but this didn't feel like being chosen. This felt like choosing each other. A week later, Liam took her somewhere new. Not a penthouse, not a restaurant. It was a small old building with dusty windows and wooden floors. A lease agreement sat on a table inside. "For what?" Emma asked. Liam handed her the key. "For your gallery." She blinked. "Liam, no press, no grand opening, no plaque with my name. Just a space. For your art, your rules." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't ask for this." "I know. That's why it matters." They spent weeks fixing it up together, scrubbing walls, painting over years of silence. She picked the colors, he fixed the lights, and slowly, piece by piece, it came to life. Her work finally had a home. But more than that, her heart did too. On opening night, she stood in the center of the gallery, surrounded by soft lights and canvases bursting with color. People came and went, marveling at her work. Her students giggled in the corner. Local artists clapped her on the back. And across the room, watching from a quiet corner, was Liam. No speeches, no spotlight. Just him, standing with his hands in his pockets, eyes only on her. Later, when the lights dimmed and the guests trickled out, she walked over to him. "I didn't think I'd ever have this," she whispered. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "What? A gallery?" "No," she said, pressing her forehead to his. "This, love, that doesn't ask me to shrink." And in the hush of that moment, surrounded by art and all the versions of herself she'd hidden for years, Emma finally understood. Real love doesn't find you when you're perfect. It finds you when you're honest, when you're human, when you stay. 1 year later. The studio was brighter now. The light looked different, softer, warmer, more like home. Paint stained the tables, kids ran through the halls, and laughter echoed through every corner. Emma stood near the window, watching a little girl hold up a painting with 2 suns in the sky. "It's 2 days happening at once," the girl explained proudly. "One for yesterday and one for tomorrow." Emma smiled. "That's beautiful." But what she didn't say was, it also felt true. Because sometimes love doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds across time. In yesterday's mistakes and tomorrow's promises. Liam arrived 10 minutes late. He was holding a paper bag with 2 breakfast rolls and a coffee she didn't even need to order anymore. "I got you the kind with cinnamon," he said, a little breathless. "The one that makes you forgive me when I'm late." Emma raised an eyebrow. "You're lucky I'm a forgiving person." He grinned, leaned in, and kissed her on the forehead. They'd gotten into this rhythm now. A quiet, ordinary kind of love. The best kind. No dramatic speeches, no cameras, just the daily choosing. Choosing to show up, to listen, to be kind even when it was hard. They still fought sometimes, like when she left her brushes soaking too long and he reorganized her whole cabinet by efficiency instead of intuition, or when she pushed too hard, doubted too much, and he stood there patient, waiting for her to breathe again. But now they knew each other. They didn't fight to win. They fought to understand, and that made all the difference. One evening, as they walked through the city under a sky streaked with gold and blue, Liam stopped near the old bookstore where they'd once shared a stormy afternoon. "I've been thinking," he said, stuffing his hands in his coat pocket. "That's always dangerous," she teased. He smiled. "I want to ask you something. Not a proposal. Not yet. Just, a thought." Emma turned to face him. "I'm listening." He took out a small, folded piece of paper. She recognized it instantly. The letter. Her letter. The one that was never meant to be sent. She looked up at him. "You still have it?" Liam nodded. "I kept it because it was the first time I saw something real in my life, but I want to give it back." He held it out. Emma took it slowly, hands trembling. "Why?" "Because I don't need a letter to know how you feel now, and you don't need to keep loving me in silence." She opened it carefully, eyes scanning the words she once wrote with tears in her eyes. "If you never read this, it's okay. Some loves are meant to live in silence. I just wanted to say it out loud, somewhere." She laughed softly. "I was so afraid." "And now?" he asked. Emma looked at him, at the man who had lied, yes, but then chose to heal, who stayed. "Now I'm not." She folded the letter once more, then slipped it back into his hand. "You keep it, because it started everything." He nodded, then gently pulled her into his arms, right there on the street, where the whole world could see. Months passed. The gallery was thriving, her classes were full, and one day she found a letter in her own mailbox. No envelope, no name, just words, handwritten, on soft pink paper. "Dear Emma, I used to believe I didn't deserve love, that if people saw the real me, they'd walk away. But you stayed, and you showed me that love isn't about earning worth, it's about being seen, and seen again, and still chosen. So this is me, choosing you. Not for the past you saved me from, but for the future you remind me to believe in." At the bottom, it was signed, simply, Liam. She folded it against her heart, eyes full of quiet joy, and for the first time, she understood. She had never needed to be loud to be heard, never needed to be perfect to be loved. She had always been enough. On the one-year anniversary of the gallery opening, Emma hosted a special night. No tickets, no media, just the people who had made her world real. Friends, students, neighbors, and Liam, always Liam. She stood before the crowd, a canvas behind her still covered in white cloth. "I want to show you something," she said, then pulled the cloth down. Gasps rippled through the room. It was a painting, not of anyone's face, but of a letter on a table, lit by warm sunlight, a mug of tea beside it. An open window, a quiet, ordinary scene, but bursting with emotion. Beneath it, the title, "The Love That Was Meant to Be Read." As the crowd clapped, Liam stood in the back, tears in his eyes, because he knew what the world was seeing now. They weren't just witnessing art, they were witnessing her, all of her, and he got to love her in full color. The end. What about you? Have you ever loved someone in silence? Or had someone love you when you least expected it? Tell me in the comments. Your story might just be the next beautiful beginning.